जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन, जमुना तीर वनचारी, जमुना तीर वनचारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन, यमुना तीर वनचारी, यमुना तीर वनचारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन, जमुना तीर वनचारी, जमुना तीर वनचारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय विश्वपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद His Divine Grace of Arvind Bhaktivedanta Swami, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, ISKCON Deputy Founder Acharya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय, ब्रज वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवदीपमायपुर धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी महारानी की जय, समावित भक्त वृंद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled. Glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Hare
Sorry, Guru Maharaj, I muted you by mistake. I muted you by mistake, Gurmaj. You have to unmute.
Is it okay now?
Yes, Gurmaj. Sorry about that. Somebody else was talking. I tried to mute them.
So, we are reading from Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 4, text number 24. This is about the transcendental knowledge. Brahmārpaṇaṁ, havir, brahmagnau, brahmaṇā hutam, brahmaiva tena gantavyaṁ, brahma-karma-samādhinā. Brahmārpaṇaṁ. Brahma means spiritual in nature, arpanam means contribution. Brahma, the supreme, havir, the butter, Brahma, spiritual, agnau, in the fire of consummation, brahmaṇā, by the spirit soul, hutam, offered, Brahma, spiritual kingdom, eva, certainly, tena, by him, gantavyaṁ, to be reached. Brahma, spiritual, karma, in the activities, samādhinā, by complete absorption. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. A person who is fully absorbed in Kṛṣṇa consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to the spiritual activities in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. How activities in Kṛṣṇa consciousness can lead one ultimately to the spiritual goal is described here. There are various activities in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, and all of them will be described in following verses. But for the present, just the principle of Kṛṣṇa consciousness is described. A conditioned soul entangled in material contamination is sure to act in the material atmosphere, and yet he has to get out of such an environment. The process by which the conditioned soul can get out of the material atmosphere is Kṛṣṇa consciousness. For example, a patient who is suffering from a disorder of bowels due to overindulgence in milk product is cured by another milk product, namely curds or yogurt. The materially absorbed conditioned souls can be cured by Kṛṣṇa consciousness as set forth here in Gita. This process is generally known as yajna, or activities, sacrifices simply meant for satisfaction of Vishnu or Kṛṣṇa. The more the activities of the material world are performed in Kṛṣṇa consciousness or for Vishnu only, the more the atmosphere becomes spiritualized by complete absorption. The word Brahman, and Brahman means the spiritual. The Lord is spiritual, and the rays of his transcendental body are called Brahma-jyoti, his spiritual effulgence. Everything that exists is situated in that Brahma-jyoti. But when the Brahma-jyoti is covered by illusion, when the jyoti is covered by illusion, maya, or sense gratification, it is called material. This material veil can be removed at once by Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Thus, the offering of the sake, for the sake of Kṛṣṇa consciousness, the consuming agent of such an offering or contribution, the process of consumption, the contributor, and the results are all combined together, Brahman or the absolute truth. The absolute truth covered by Maya is called matter. Matter, doubted for the cause of absolute truth, regains its spiritual quality. Kṛṣṇa consciousness is the process of converting the illusory consciousness into Brahman or the Supreme. When the mind is fully absorbed in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, it is said to be in samadhi or trance. Anything done in such transcendental consciousness is called yajna or sacrifice for the absolute. In that condition of the spiritual consciousness, the contributor, the contribution, the consumption, the performer or the leader of the performance, and the result or the ultimate gain, everything becomes one in absolute, the Supreme Brahman. That is the method of Krishna consciousness. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshul Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadasti Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavasya Sri Rupam Sadrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Tamtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakanatam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhapyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namaha Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatare Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. The purport is of the prime importance for the devotees that they should understand what is Brahman. The word Brahman in the entire sloka has been used how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. This word is very unifying. But if I play a part today of an impersonalist, how would I interpret? You read in somebody else's Bhagavad Gita, well-known authors, but they are impersonalists. They will say, whatever is offered to Brahma itself is Brahman, and whatever the articles of offering, they also are Brahman, and the fire that consumes everything is also Brahman. So it is Brahman is to be approached, and your karma in that consumption is also becoming Brahman. What does this mean? Actually, that kind of samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi, what they call it, on Brahman, is completely, an impersonal, theology, the basis of theology. Brahman is the absolute truth, but the energy itself is not. Because all the activities of offering, like brahmārpaṇaṁ, to the Brahman, and the fire sacrifice that is also invoking the presence of the Supreme Brahman. That is what we call yajna, brahmaṇā hutam. So the fire becomes of all the same spiritual nature, right? But brahmena tena gantavyaṁ. Now, gantavyaṁ means there is a specific destination, and it cannot be impersonal. If Brahmajyoti is the destination, and everything of our karma ultimately is going to become offering in that Brahman, automatically, no. Without our intention, no. Everything which is, going through the agency of a person, an individual, then the Brahman should not be simply an individual or homogeneous substance. It is the supreme individual that has to be understood. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada is giving a very specific, targeted, understanding about transcendental knowledge, how, the activities, the karma, when it is offered for the pleasure of Vishnu, who is Brahman or Supreme Brahman, the act is going to be consumed by him because it is offered in love for him. We want our Lord to consume our offering. That is what is there. And therefore, he is a supreme individual, supreme personality of Godhead. And to whom is of nature of Brahman, we are offering. So Brahman means transcendent, right? Spiritual nature. Brahman means spiritual nature. Arpana means contribution. Brahma, the supreme means the supreme personality of Godhead. It's not a nirvikalpa. There is no other alternative, because you cannot understand the personality of Godhead, who is the supreme Brahman. Brahman is the position, transcendental position. But who acquires the position, which is very important? It is the personality acquires that position. So Brahmaṇā, that is, you are a spirit soul. So unless and until your bodily conception is over, how can you be spiritual? So hutam means offered, and offering should be consumed. We must make sure that the offering is consumed fully. Then and then the yajna is finished. Brahma means it is a spiritual kingdom, because that spiritual kingdom is the gantavyaṁ, means it is the destination that is to be reached. So the personality is there, personal abode is there. The Brahman means that spiritual nature. Karma, your karma means now yajna. The karma are devotional activities. So samādhinā, by complete absorption. So unless and until you have the conception, that is dharana, on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, your activities for His pleasure cannot become the acts of devotional service. This is the general principle, but our aim of the act of devotional service is to gain the love of God, what Kṛṣṇa is desiring. So it's not that with how the Mayavadis or other Shaktas and others, they want to offer even meat in the fire of sacrifice. So do you think that is going to become an act of the absolute? You bet it is. That is ignorant activities, and only Shivji can handle that part, that Rakasha was offering his own flesh because he wanted Shiva to come and appear by force, So he wanted to sacrifice his body just to fulfill his desire. Oh my God. It is the completely opposite, activity to fulfill a desire, which will not be a bodily conception, because body is going to be sacrificed. So, yes, demons don't care of their bodies, but they want such austerities to be performed in order to disturb the demigods and to ultimately gain favor of them by, pressurizing them, suffocating them. That was Hiranyakashipu's idea also. So, but these are the activities and the mode of ignorance, So, how their activity were ever going to become brahma-karma-samādhinā? No, that activity is not brahma-karma. It is, dushta karma. It is not pleasing to Lord Krishna. So, Prabhupada gives us very perfect, understanding that a person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to the spiritual activities in which the consummation is absolute, and that which is offered to the same spiritual nature. So we make sure when we do any devotional service, we need the purificatory process to be performed, for an even offering. We do the achman ourselves, and then similar achman is offered to the deity to invite to offer the bhoga. And this activity of offering, which is devoid of sense gratification, it is to satisfy the Lord, because the Lord is being treated the best way we want to treat ourselves. So naturally, the importance of making everything pertaining to our devotional activity, all that is the vidhi and nishedha have to be followed, as to also engage them as subservient to the Supreme Personality of God. Even if you want to remember the Lord in devotional service, you will have to dovetail, this vidhi and nishedhas. Vidhi means the recommendations of following four regulative principles. They are the nishedhas, and chant 16 rounds is the vidhi that we want to do. That is making ourselves completely in tune with the purpose of the devotional service. So these are the why they are recommended process, because it is becoming an offering that will be accepted by the Lord. The Lord accepts by reciprocation in the mood of transcendence. Everything is of that nature, transcendental nature. So the idea is that what Srila Prabhupada is saying, that it is the act of Krishna consciousness that will ultimate aim of going back home, back to Godhead, for executing loving devotional service. There, that is the kingdom of Lord which is spiritual, because our spiritual activities are fully contributed, in which contribution, there is offering, consumption of the absolute, and the satisfaction. Everything becomes of the same spiritual nature. So this is pretty important, and it is the foundation of how Krishna conscious activities can lead ultimately to the spiritual goal that is described here. There are various activities in Krishna consciousness, and all of them will be described in following verses. All the different kinds of yajna, and in the following verses, then the control of the senses are also being offered in their activities for the sake of pleasing Lord Krishna. All the senses are thus engaged, and that will bring him to the point of realization of the absolute. So there are different kinds of yajnas. They are told, and how one can convert that into a transcendental activity. So the yogis have also been included with different kind of yogic exercises can be offered in the service of Krishna. That is also there. And Yagyashishtamrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatana. They partaking on the at the end of performing this kind of yajnas, which are Krishna conscious activities, the remnants which are taken as prasadam, and that becomes the cause of going back home, back to Godhead. This is the real sustenance for a devotee. There is no variety and nothing of a personal indulgence for an impersonalist or Mayavadi to be entered into this kind of activities. So we can understand the impersonalist way of understanding is simply becoming a word jugglery, and a personalist understanding is a performance of pure devotional service in thinking, willing, and acting. So these yajnas are called bahuvidha. Bahuvidha means so many different kinds of Krishna conscious activities were there, and they are all resulting in the self-realization and the Paramatma realization, and for that purpose, for that a practical purpose, that your karma will ultimately become yajna, you must approach a bona fide spiritual master. You go with folded hands and surrender to him and offer your services to him, manual service, and he will impart. And pariprashna means you will have to ask, the pertinent questions, so you will be able to uplift your understanding towards Krishna consciousness. So this is culminating in transcendental knowledge. A personalist, transcendental supreme personality of Godhead will be knowable through our activity of Krishna consciousness. So that knowledge is the real knowledge. And besides that, there is nothing, what we call liberating. Besides this, there is nothing liberating. And this is completely pure knowledge. So naturally, all these subsequent activities, starting from Shraddha, one develops the total karma-samādhinā, what they call the culminating activities as an offering to Krishna. That is becoming Bhakti Yoga. So there is no difference between transcendental knowledge, which is of the personalist, then it will evolve in Bhakti Yoga. So in this particular verse, Srila Prabhupada is establishing what is Krishna consciousness. Everything is guaranteed, is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to the spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute, and that which is offered is of also the same spiritual nature. The spiritual nature. Spiritual nature is the real nature. It means come back to God. The transcendental nature is the spiritual nature, not material nature. It will be totally pulled out from this drowning, ocean of material sufferings. So, establishing oneself in Krishna consciousness and following in the principles of Krishna consciousness, whatever is done by us should be as an offering to Lord Krishna. Every day, in and out, you can look into that, whether my karma has become an offering to Krishna or not. So that will become your way. Try to make every activity of your daily life as a sacrifice to Lord Krishna. Do whatever you want to do, but it is for the pleasure of Krishna, and offer it. You just take for granted without offering, that's now cheating process. You offer exactly. This offering is for the pleasure of Krishna, not that for your satisfaction. People say, well, I haven't done today, I'm not satisfied. Or Baba, you have to be very, very alert. You want to make everything of the same spiritual nature. Your activity, the result, your offering, then your understanding how to conduct yourself, the spiritual nature that is created surrounding it is there. Sarvamidam khalvam brahma, they say in the Veda that Sarvamidam, everything is of Brahman nature. So the Brahma Jyoti is all pervading, and everything is happening within the Brahma Jyoti. But Prabhupada indicates here that Brahma Jyoti is self-effulgent rays coming from the body of Krishna. This Brahma Jyoti is all pervading. Both spiritual and material nature are there. Material nature is floating where the jivas are ignorant and they are not understanding that they have to live for the pleasure of the Lord because it's Lord's jurisdiction. So naturally for them, material nature, Maya becomes regulative, regulative presiding deity. She will regulate them, She will try to correct, but, it will take many, many births. One has to approach, a proper agency. One has to approach for coming out from this ignorance first. And the easiest way in Kali Yuga is to engage in Krishna conscious activities, chanting Lord Krishna's name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And this way, make everything around you Krishna conscious. There should not be left any corner, untouched by Krishna consciousness. You put Krishna consciousness wherever and everywhere you go. So this is a very nice state of existence that the personalist and impersonalist differ. So why such impersonal realization is incomplete? Because they have no interaction at all with Brahman or consummation. They simply think by dint of knowledge, because it does not go beyond the impersonal Brahma-jyoti. They want to float in. They think that is it. But because they are envious of God, their knowledge is restricting them not to go to the ultimate goal of life, which is called going back home, back to Godhead, and complete devotional merits. So I would like to stop here and take questions. Anybody has questions?
Hare Krishna, anybody has any questions? Please raise your hand or unmute and ask. Gurmaj, I have a question.
Yes.
I get confused about these words, consumption and consuming and all that. I get confused how that actually relates to our devotional service.
Consumption, when you offer an oblation in a fire, havir, right? The word is used as havir. Havir, that is butter, right? So ghee is offered in the fire. But the havir is going to keep the fire burning, all right? But at the end, when you do the final offering called Purnahuti, you also put something like halwa and sweetmeat as the final offering, Purnahuti. So they are representative of your commitment and activities that you are going to perform, right? So this offering, or the symbolic offering in that sense, but symbolic of what? Your willingness to chant 16 rounds per every day and following 4 regulative principles. These are your offerings, and they will be consumed by the fire, right? the fire accepts through the agency of, your what we call the substances. In other words, you can put anything in consumption? No. Offer the most precious thing as the final or purnahuti. Ahuti, purna means the final. That is reiterating the same vows that you have been taking in a performance of a particular sacrifice. So it is not symbolic, but it is actually an offering. And on that basis only you are initiated into the process. Right? You got it? So,
yes.
The spiritual activities, let's hear, a person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness means he is practicing for a certain time, say 1 year, and he is desiring to become regulated, is giving you a vow. So he's sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to the spiritual activities. Means whatever we will do, we'll do it in Krishna consciousness, right? In which now all those contributions that are going to be offered, like a vow is being taken as an offering. These are all the vows. So in which the vows are going to be offered to Krishna in the form of the fire. So consummation of that is also absolute, because the Yagyapati, the invocation of the Supreme Lord in the fire sacrifice or the act of devotional service is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna himself. There's no difference. So he is going to receive it. What are you going to offer? All that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer as a sacrifice, all that you offer as a homage, isn't it? All that you give in charity, offer it to me, he is asking. So all that will be going to be consumed by the absolute. Don't think that he doesn't care and he will waste it. No, it is becoming consumed in the fire of sacrifice, and so the offering also becomes of the same spiritual nature. Such things are offered along with the ghee, means it will be of the same nature. The ghee is burning and it will make other things also burn fast. So the nature of activity is all unifying for one purpose only, that you are committing your chant or regular principles and 16 rounds daily without fail, in order to please Lord Krishna. So everything, your desire also becomes absolute, because it is in corresponding with all the activities of a performance of a ritual sacrifice is concerned. And therefore, this is not karma-kanda. This is for the pleasure of the Supreme Person. Got it. It is different. You follow?
Yes, Gurumaj. Thank you very much. Arundhati Mataji has a question. You can unmute and ask the question.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
That.
Thank you so much for the beautiful explanation. It was extremely very good and very well understood now. Yeah, Guru Maharaj, it was very good class. I really liked it so much that I have understood everything very clearly now. Because all these days I have been saying this as a ritual. Brahmārpaṇaṁ, havir, brahmagnau, brahmana, hutam, brahmaiva, tena, gantavyaṁ, brahma-karma-samādhinā. And also that kayena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrite svabhavat karomi atyat sakalam parasmai Narayanaayeti samarpayami. So Guru Maharaj, I understood the actual meaning of all these things.
That is, desire, but they don't do actually.
Yeah.
They offer only words. They don't offer other things because they think the words are Brahman and other activities are not Brahman. So it becomes a kind of hypocrisy.
Yes, Gurudev. So Gurudev, all these days I have been teaching the children also and myself. After every activity, I still say this.
It comes from
okay?
Mayavadi sources.
Okay. So we should... Okay, Guru Maharaj. So now, though, as we understand the in-depth meaning of this, should we continue saying this or should we stop it?
Stop it. Brahmārpaṇaṁ is best for you.
Yes, Gurudev. Thank you. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Does anyone else have any questions to ask?
Kayena manasa vacha. Whatever I do through it, I want to offer it. That is, but is it favorable to Kṛṣṇa?
Okay.
No. The whole day I use abusing words, and then at the end of the day, oh, manasa vacha, whatever it is, I'm offering.
Yeah.
Come
No,
on.
Guru, even after chanting 16 rounds,
whatever I do means it's an open invitation to flounder the meaning of yajna.
Okay. Yeah. So even after devotional service, even after 16 rounds or 32 rounds, I say this kayena vacha, I should stop it now, isn't it?
Yeah, because it is not specifying.
Yeah.
It is favorable or unfavorable. And these Mayavadis do not care anything which is favorable to Kṛṣṇa or unfavorable. It is favorable to them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Kṛṣṇa anukulena.
Prabhupada's purports are perfectly, targeting the personalist ideas and that we can easily understand.
Yes, Gurudev. It's very beautifully explained and you have made it very clear today.
Now, that's why, because I have also come across very impersonalist and Mayavadi thought about this particular verse. And they goof and make people, go round and round. Jab recitation only without meaningful application in the life, what is the use of that? It doesn't make you religiously inclined, but not the meaningful application in your life to come back to Godhead. This is called foolish piety. Prabhupada explains this. It's foolish piety.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
All right?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Vrindavan.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. It looks like that's everything for tonight.
That's it?
It looks like it. Anyone else have any questions? No one's coming up, Guru Maharaj.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, Prabhupada ki Jai.
All glories to
Thank-
Srila Gurudev. Srila Gurudev
Srila
ki
Gurudev ki
jai.
jai.